Brain box.
I will eat it until I'm sick. Hi, so I've been posting without much correlation recently as I find out about new subreddits from videos online. This one is a particularly sore spot to me, and one my younger sister occasionally reminds me of. So, I'm allergic to coconut. I haven't been allergic my whole life, but I gained it later in life. I'm not really sure on the science behind it, other than I wasn't allergic and now I am. I found out when my then boyfriend ate a coconut chocolate bar, and my whole face swelled up. I figured I could just tell my parents, and have it not be that big a thing. But I was severely allergic as, in touching it brought me out in hives, and eating it made me vomit. It wasn't bad enough that it would ever kill me, but I was worried. Now I told my parents, and neither of them believed me. My dad told me I was being stupid and just doing it because I didn't like the taste of it, and my mother told me I was doing it because I didn't like the smell. I have no sense of smell, so that wasn't possible. And, almost as if they were conspiring against me, my father started cooking more foods with coconut in it, and my mother switched over to exclusively coconut shower gels and shampoos. I did end up buying my own shampoos and shower gels, but my mother would use those up and tell me I didn't need to buy my own stuff then. If I reminded her about my allergy, she would always complain, saying this is the first she'd ever heard of this. My younger sister would consistently remind her of the contrary, and she eventually let me buy my own shampoos. My father, on the other hand. My father is a lovely man, but he's had a long history of lying. As such, he always assumes other people are lying around him. I'm not sure why. I think it's guilt, but he would not stop making me coconut-based food. And it usually wasn't stuff I could pick around with, it was curry and stuff like that. I would usually only eat a few bites until I got a little sick, and then I'd pick at the rice. My dad didn't like this because I was always hungry after my food, but I had hardly eaten. One day, he had enough, and he told me I had to eat all my food. I had also had enough. Enough of my dad serving me food then being a little sick afterwards. So I complied. I ate every single mouthful of that curry. And it was delicious. If it hadn't have been coconut, I'd have enjoyed it. But, as it stood, I didn't. Every mouthful made me feel heavier and heavier until, right as I took my last bite, I excused myself. My sister tells me I was pale, except around my eyes, which looked heavy. I was visibly ill, and visibly in a lot of pain. My dad looked triumphant, until I started rushing to the bathroom. He quickly followed me and I vomited. Not just in the toilet but all over the bathroom. I couldn't stop myself. It was violent and messy. I could hear my sister through the door telling my dad that I had told him I was allergic. The door opened, and my stepmom lifted me up, shakily. She helped me put on my sleepwear and put me to bed. My dad didn't make me eat coconut ever again. Do not lock your car in the car park? Alright then. This moment has been building for some time now, on my phone at work, so sorry for any grammar/spelling issues. Working in a pharmacy located in a medical center shaped like a *T. Pharmacy located on one end of the arm, general practitioners located on the other end with specialists, having rooms between us. Medical center covers whole width of the block with 2 car parks, one on each side of the building / each side of the *T body, so unable to drive directly across from one to another. There are designated spots marked my profession title, pharmacist, pathologist, radiologist, doctor, etc. at their closest car park, with other bays marked for either 15, 30, or 60 minutes, excluding disabled or delivery parking. Got a doctor who just parks in any bay they like in the pharmacy car park. Gets frustrating as the pharmacy closes 30 minutes before the doctors do, all the specialists being closed no less than an hour before the pharmacy closes, and we need to lock up the car park on our side of the building when we leave, and they lock up their end when they leave. Every night somebody goes up to the doctor's reception to inform them that there is that car there, and they'll need to lock the gate once they leave. It's the same system for both gates, just an unnecessary hassle to walk across the length of the building. This goes on for about a month before we get a building-wide email from the building head stating the rules of the car parks, indicating as per the rules clearly stated on the car parks, cars will be locked inside if after stated hours. Surely enough, that night the doctor parks in our car park, and we leave that night with it locked inside. That was last night, and while I did not open, there was some confrontation between the doctor and the pharmacist in charge about his car locked in the car park, and the pharmacist requested the doctor send the pharmacy a formal email to not lock his car in the car park. Email was received and forwarded to the building head straight away. Right now, about 1 hour before closing, we have called the building head to get his car towed away. Per rules of the car park, it has been several hours since it parked in a 15-minute spot, and per his email did not want us to lock it in our car park. I have just gone down in person to the doctor's reception, and they have called/left a voicemail message for the doctor to move his car as we are preparing to close. Edit. Grammar. Comment. Thanks for the silver and gold. Should see the results in a couple of hours. Update 1. Building head is here, informed of situation, and has seen email exchange with doctor. Tow truck has been called. About 30 minutes until we close. Car still in car park. Update 2. Tow truck come and give. Car now towed away, car park locked up. No cars inside. Will update tomorrow with reaction. Update 3. So apparently building head had tried to see drive Toad to get the car moved before the tow truck was called. Apparently, and thankfully, the doctor was on short-term contract, explaining only having issues for the past few weeks, so was not difficult to terminate the contract for drive Toad, since they were not following conditions of the contract, the evidence of the email, parking violations, and something else that was going on in the clinic between drive Toad and fellow staff, but alas, I do not know what. Since the doctor was contacted multiple times to park his car in the right spot and to move his car that night, the building head had the right authority and no issues to tow the vehicle. The building head even had a printout of the email saying that Dr.Toad did not want their car locked in the car park when he yelled at her last night that they should be reimbursed for the impound fee before the building head asked Dr.Toad to leave the premises before the police were called. Great way to start the workday, knowing we should, hopefully, not see drive Toad again. Don't say anything about quitting. You got it. Don't say anything about quitting. So I've been working for this guy at my job for about 3 years now. He's the most universally disliked manager I have ever worked for or really even ever heard of. There are maybe 2 people under his organization that like him, and of course those 2 other but kissing type that live for crappy bosses because there's less competition for getting their heads up his anus. Even outside of our organization, no one wants to be in meetings with him because he will dominate the conversation until everyone yields to his will, either out of agreement or out of desire for the meeting to be over. He drives the conversation to a standstill, or he gets his way. These are the only options. His are the only good ideas, despite being an engineer managing an analytical chemistry lab. Anyway, after a couple of years of that mess, I finally decided it was time for me to pursue graduate school. I was accepted before Christmas last year, but, as classes don't start until July, decided to withhold my news until after annual performance reviews had taken place in January. After all, I didn't want my leaving to negatively affect my bonus/review in any way. So once we had agreed on all my ratings and were about to discuss plans for the coming year, I gave him the news that I'd be leaving in April. To his credit and my surprise, he handled this quite well. He wasn't vindictive in any way and actually said that he hated to lose me. But then at the end of the discussion, he said, "I would ask that you not say anything about leaving yet." Now, this may seem like a small request, and it mostly is. But it's also the exact kind of dictatorial move my boss is so reviled for. He wants control at all times. He wants things his way, and like I said, he doesn't particularly care for anyone else's idea on the matter. On top of all that, there's not really a reason to keep this news quiet. It's my news to share, and there's not really anything he can do to change that. My guess is he requested this because he didn't expect my departure, so he didn't have a plan yet. But since his word is law, I agreed not to say anything. Instead, I did something far more effective. I posted it on Facebook after work that evening. Over the next few hours, I got texts from coworkers congratulating me, asking when I'm leaving, etc. I took no phone calls. I spoke no words. Yet somehow, by the next morning all 50 of my coworkers had received the news. Conveniently, I had to take my dog to a chemo treatment the next day. He's a very good boy, so I wasn't at work to see all the fallout. But apparently several people were asking my boss if he knew I was leaving, what his plan was, what were they going to do losing someone with my somewhat niche skill set, etc. Not having an ironclad plan already in place, had to have killed him, but he never said a word to me about it. My only regret is that I didn't get to see his face when he realized the news had been broken to basically everyone.